Alright, son, now we're taking the fight to the Eclipsed Court.
The Mars Outpost. The corridors of the Stellar Enforcement Division's primary outpost on Mars were eerily quiet at night. Long metallic passageways stretched into the distance, every inch bathed in the harsh glare of overhead strips of cold white light. The air carried that sterile tang of recycled oxygen, layered with a faint metallic scent from the titanium alloy walls. Somewhere far off, the low hum of the atmospheric processors was the only sign that the base was still alive. Commander Elijah Steele moved through it like a man born to command such spaces, with the steady, measured pace of someone who had patrolled more war zones than peaceful halls. The gray and black tactical suit he wore hugged his muscular frame with precision-fit armor panels, the joints flexible enough for swift combat movement. It wasn't vanity that made him look sharp. It was the discipline ingrained into him after years of service. His shadow stretched and shifted across the floor as he passed light panel after light panel. His sharp jawline was framed by a neatly trimmed beard, while a few rebellious strands of brown hair fell over his forehead. Despite the uniform perfection, there was something untamed in the way he carried himself, a glint in his dark eyes, a certain ease in his stride that said, "I know exactly what I'm doing and I'll break the rules if I have to." The base was nearly empty during the night cycle. Day shift officers had retreated to the barracks, leaving automated drones and a skeleton crew to keep watch. Through the occasional viewport, the rust-red deserts of Mars stretched out under a canopy of glittering stars. It was beautiful in a lonely way, a reminder that humanity was still a young player in a very old galaxy. Elijah glanced at his wrist-mounted computer, scanning the latest security readouts. Another quiet night, he muttered to himself. Quiet nights were dangerous. They made you think nothing could happen. He was halfway down the observation deck corridor when the voice of the outpost AI cut through the stillness. Alert, unidentified vessel detected in restricted airspace. Signature matches no known configuration. Elijah's head snapped up, instincts already firing. Location, he demanded. The AI's calm, androgynous voice filled the corridor. 30 kilometers east, approaching low orbit. No response to hails. 100 possibilities ran through his mind. Pirates, smugglers, some backwater trader with a broken transponder. Or something worse. Computer initiate full spectrum scan. Track its trajectory. Alert planetary defense grid. The world exploded in light. There was no flash of weapon fire, no tremor of impact, just a sudden tear in reality itself. One moment, Elijah was standing in the corridor, and the next the outpost dissolved around him, like sand blown away by the wind. A heartbeat later, he was standing in a place that defied all military architecture he'd ever seen. The walls pulsed, not like lights flickering, but like something alive breathing. Their soft organic luminescence shifted between deep purples and pale blues, flowing like a tide. The air was warmer here, tinged with an electric sweet scent that reminded him of ozone after a lightning strike, but softer, almost intoxicating. He could feel it on his skin. Somewhere beneath his feet, he could hear the place, a deep, slow heartbeat-like thrum that vibrated up through his boots. A voice, low, rich, and edged with something he couldn't place, spoke behind him. "Welcome aboard, Commander Steele." He spun hand, going for his sidearm, and froze when his fingers met empty air. His weapon was gone. The figure before him was impossible to ignore. Her skin was the color of pale jade, yet it shimmered as if woven with faint metallic threads that caught the room's glow. Long liquid strands of rose quartz-colored hair cascaded over her shoulders, the hue shifting subtly as she moved. Her eyes were a luminous, impossible shade of pink, locking onto his with a predator's patience. At her brow, a delicate organic crest, curved backward like a crown, not ornamental, but living tissue, catching and reflecting the ambient light in soft pulses. Her bodysuit, if it could be called that, was a webwork of black, high-density alien fiber that seemed to grow over her form, wrapping her curves in strategic coverage while leaving swathes of smooth green skin exposed. It was at once functional and blatantly, unapologetically sensual. "I've been watching you for some time," she said, her words flowing like a melody in a language half-sung. "I am Celia Nex, and you are now my guest." He straightened, feet planted, voice firm. "That's an interesting way of saying prisoner. You do realize kidnapping a Stellar Enforcement Division commander is an act of war." Her laugh was light and crystalline like wind chimes, stirring in a warm breeze. "Oh, Commander, I have no interest in war. My interests are far more personal." Her eyes brightened, and before Elijah could react, he felt something wash over him, a subtle heat, a slow melt in the edges of his thoughts. His limbs didn't weaken, but the sharp edge of his awareness dulled, like fog, curling in around his mind. "What are you doing?" His voice was steady, but there was a heaviness under it. She took a slow step closer, her movements fluid enough to make the living light ripple across her body. Her scent, whatever it was, wound into his senses. "Shh!" She whispered, close enough now that her breath brushed the side of his neck. "Just relax, and let me take care of everything." The hypnotic game, the warmth in his mind deepened, settling over Elijah like a velvet curtain. Every detail in the room sharpened the gentle rise and fall of the glowing walls, the glimmer of light across Celia's hair, the faint hum that seemed to vibrate in his bones. He recognized the signs. He'd been trained to resist psychic intrusion, not against Lumin specifically, but against enough alien telepaths to know the dangers. The difference was, none of them had felt like this. Her gaze was fixed on him, those luminous pink irises, pulsing faintly in rhythm with something deep in her chest. She wasn't speaking, but the air between them was alive with unspoken suggestion. "Let go!" The thought brushed against his mind, a whisper not in his ears, but in the marrow of his bones. "Why fight me, Commander, when I can give you everything you desire?" His jaw tightened. "You'll find humans aren't so easy to turn into puppets." Her smile deepened, not mocking but curious. "You are resisting. Fascinating." She tilted her head slightly, as if studying a rare specimen. "Most minds fall to me in seconds. They go glassy-eyed, their wills dissolving like sugar in warm water. But you push back." And yet she took another step closer, her hips swaying in a rhythm that matched the pulse in his head. "You still feel me?" "I feel a headache coming on," he said, but the dryness in his voice was undercut by the way his breathing had changed, slower, deeper. Her eyes gleamed. "Your body betrays you. Your pupils are dilating. Your heart rate is up. You like the way I feel in your head." The warmth became a tide rising higher, eroding the walls of his mental defenses. It didn't slam against them like an attack. It flowed, seeping into cracks, making him want to let it in. He'd faced battlefield psychic assaults that burned and bludgeoned the mind. This was different. This was temptation as a weapon. "What's your game?" he asked, forcing his voice steady. "My game." She closed the distance until they were almost touching. "You think this is a game, human? I am a Lumin. I take what I want, and what I want is you." There was no mistaking the double meaning in her tone. For a moment, the haze thickened and his thoughts blurred. Images not his own flared behind his eyes, flashes of alien landscapes, lit by twin suns, seas that glowed from within, the sensation of being inside someone else's skin. And then snap, he forced himself to focus, cutting through the trance like a blade. Her eyes widened slightly. "You're still here." A slow, almost predatory smile formed. "You shouldn't be able to speak coherently right now. And yet, you stand there glaring at me as though I haven't been in your mind for the last 3 minutes. Maybe your powers aren't as strong as you thought," he said. That earned him a low musical laugh. "Oh, Commander, you have no idea how strong they are." She began to circle him like a hunting cat, her voice wrapping around him. "Most beings surrender the moment I touch their consciousness. But you fight and yield at the same time. It's intoxicating. I can feel your will pushing against mine, even as your body leans toward me. Or maybe I just don't like people rooting around in my head without permission," he shot back. She stopped directly in front of him, her face inches from his, the bioluminescent crest at her brow flaring faintly. "Permission," she repeated, savoring the word. An odd concept for a species that conquers and colonizes. He smirked. "We usually ask first." The moment stretched between them, charged and unbroken, until the ship shuddered violently beneath their feet. Celia's head snapped toward the wall crest, pulsing in warning. "Alert proximity warning. Dranid warship has dropped out of hyperspace." Her playful expression evaporated. "They found me." Dranid Elijah asked, already scanning the room for anything resembling a weapons locker. "They hunt my kind," she said curtly. "They fear what we can do." The lights shifted to a deep crimson, pulsing in rhythm with the ship's heartbeat. Another shudder ran through the floor, and the hum in the air turned into a low, resonant growl. Elijah's instincts clicked into place. "Then stop hypnotizing me, and let's deal with them." Her eyes flicked back to him, and for the first time since they met, there was no smirk, no teasing lilt in her tone. "You want to fight with me? I want to survive," he said. "And I have a feeling you're going to need me." Slowly her lips curved into a smile again, but this time it wasn't playful. It was sharp. "Perhaps I chose well after all, Commander Steele." The neural merge. The floor trembled beneath their feet, not with the mechanical jolt of inertial compensators, but with something organic like the shiver of a living thing sensing danger. Elijah steadied himself, scanning the alien chamber. Celia moved with sudden purpose, crossing to a structure at the center of the room. It wasn't a console. In any human sense, it looked like a growth of ivory-veined coral rising from the floor, its surface slick and faintly luminescent. The shapes were asymmetrical, but somehow inviting. "This," she said, running her fingers along its curves, "is the control nexus." He eyed it. "Looks more like a piece of alien art than a flight deck." Her lips twitched. "That's because your ships are clumsy, Commander. This one is alive, semi-sentient. She thinks, she feels, she responds." Another shudder rattled the chamber. Somewhere deep within the ship, a low resonant boom echoed like the distant roar of some deep-sea creature. Elijah stepped forward. "How do we fight with it?" Celia's gaze flicked to him, sharp and measuring, the neural interface. "But it's not like your primitive flight sticks and buttons. She needs more than commands, she needs connection. Full sensory synchronization." He frowned, meaning. Her crest flared faintly, her tone lowering. "Skin contact. Your thoughts linked directly to hers, through me." His brow rose. "Through you," a small, almost wicked smile. "You'll survive. Probably." She extended her hand. "Take it, Commander." For a moment he hesitated, not because of fear, but because he knew the moment he touched her in this context, things would change. This wasn't just plugging into a console. This was opening himself up in ways military training didn't cover. Then the ship rocked again, harder this time. He grabbed her hand. The effect was instantaneous. A rush of sensation tore through him, not like being pulled into another mind, but like becoming part of one. He could feel Celia, the smooth precision of her thoughts, the way her instincts flared and cooled, like bursts of solar wind. And beneath her, deeper and older, was something vast, the ship itself, a presence as ancient and patient as a whale, gliding through dark oceans. 3 consciousnesses overlapped his human strategic mind. Her psychic attunement, the ship's fluid awareness, until he could no longer tell where one ended and the next began. "This is..." His voice was breathless. "Incredible." "In focus, Commander," Celia said softly, her voice now in his head as much as his ears. "The Dranid will not wait." The space around them unfolded in his mind's eye, fed by the ship's sensory organs. Not radar, but something more primal, like taste and touch applied to space itself. He could feel the Dranid vessel as a jagged angular presence in the void, its weapons radiating cold predatory intent. "They're bigger," Elijah observed. "They're always bigger," Celia replied. "And slower. Use that." Through their link, he pushed a thought, a maneuver sharp and sudden, and the ship responded instantly, swooping into a spiraling arc that would have torn a human-built hull apart. The Dranid fired, lancing the void with a searing quantum beam. At the last possible instant, Elijah twisted them through an impossible barrel roll. The beam tore a rift in space where they'd been a fraction of a second before. Celia's sharp intake of breath echoed in his mind. You planned for that. Exactly, he said, already moving to the next step. Can your ship sense quantum fluctuations? Of course. Then track the rift. She caught his intent in an instant through the link. Her delight shimmered through the connection. Brilliant, T, and reckless. That's humanity for you, he shot back. They dove toward the still collapsing dimensional tier, slipping through its unstable folds just before it snapped shut. On the other side, directly behind the Dranid's shield envelope, Elijah focused on a single point in their propulsion grid. A pulse of energy surged from their ship, precise and surgical. The Dranid's massive vessel went dark, drifting powerless into the void. The neural link pulsed with shared adrenaline. They turned toward each other without realizing it. The glow from the living walls played over her green skin, over the flush of heat in her cheeks. Her pink eyes locked on his. I've never merged with anyone so perfectly, she murmured. You'd better get used to it, he said, and closed the distance. The kiss was inevitable. No hypnosis, no power games, just the raw heat of two beings who had tasted each other's minds and found something worth wanting. The heart of consciousness. They broke apart slowly, still close enough for their shared breath to mingle. The ship's pulse soft and steady now after the chaos of battle filled the silence between them. Celia's gaze lingered on him for a moment longer before she stepped back, her crest dimming to a calmer glow. You fought well, Commander. Better than I imagined a human could. Elijah gave a faint smirk. That's the thing about us, we're full of surprises. Her expression shifted, subtle but significant. The amusement still there, but shadowed by something more serious. She turned toward a section of the wall, pressing her palm to its surface. The living material rippled beneath her touch, parting like the petals of a flower. From within, a hidden compartment spiraled open, revealing something that immediately drew Elijah's full attention. It was a crystalline object, the size of a human fist, faceted, yet somehow fluid, as if the crystal were caught mid-melt. Light pulsed from within it, not steady but alive, shifting in intensity as if responding to Celia's nearness. The glow painted her green skin in shades of gold and rose. Elijah took an instinctive half-step forward. What is that? Celia's voice dropped into a reverent register. The heart of consciousness, an ancient relic from my people's earliest days, long before we were the Lumin you know today. The name alone made the air between them feel heavier. Looks valuable. She laughed softly, though her fingers traced the artifact with delicate care. Value is a human word for trade and ownership. This is beyond such things. It amplifies our psychic abilities to levels even we consider dangerous. With it, I can influence not just individuals, but entire populations. Elijah's brow furrowed. So it's a weapon. Her eyes flicked to his pink irises, flaring faintly. In the wrong hands, yes, but in the right ones. She held the heart out toward him, though not close enough for him to touch. It is transformation. He crossed his arms. You've had this the whole time, hidden from the Dranid. They have been hunting me for it since I stole it back from them. Her tone hardened for the first time since he'd met her. They fear what it can do, what I can do with it. Then why show it to me now, he asked. Her smile returned, but slower, more deliberate. Because the heart doesn't just amplify existing power, it can transfer it to another species, temporarily or permanently. He felt the weight of her meaning settle between them. You're talking about giving me your abilities. Not just giving, she corrected. Merging, binding. A complete melding of minds and bodies. Your natural resistance to psychic control, combined with our potential, would create something unprecedented. He studied her face. And what does that process involve? Celia's crest glimmered with sly amusement. You already know, Commander. We've touched the edge of it in the neural link. But for the heart to work, the connection must be deeper, intimate, a joining without barriers, mental or physical. He exhaled slowly. You mean? The ship's voice interrupted, a harmonic tone threading into their awareness. Warning. Multiple Dranit signatures inbound. Estimated arrival 20 minutes. Celia's smile turned sharper. Perfect timing. Perfect, Elijah said, raising an eyebrow. Because once they're here, they will not stop until they take the heart or destroy us. And once the ritual is complete, they will not be able to face what we will have become. She stepped closer, the artifact cradled in her palm, its glow intensifying as if it felt the nearness of their bodies. We have a choice, Commander. Face them as we are, or face them as something new. He held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded once. Show me how. The ritual began in the center of the chamber, the walls shifting subtly to form a smooth cradle-like dais. Celia placed the heart between them, and its light expanded into a dome that wrapped them in gold and rose luminescence. Her voice was soft but commanding. Let go of every wall, every defense. Open your mind to mine. The moment their hands met over the heart, heat surged up his arms, spreading through his chest, his skull. The link was nothing like the ship's neural interface. This was raw, intimate, unshielded. He felt her thoughts pouring into him. Not words, but sensations, fragments of memory, running across a glowing ocean shore, under twin moons, the electric thrill of first battle, the quiet ache of long solitude. In return, she felt him the grit of boot leather in Martian dust, the metallic tang of recycled air, the stubborn defiance that had kept him alive in wars he shouldn't have survived. Their breaths synced without thought. The heart pulsed faster. The gold and rose light bled into deep violet, wrapping around them like a cocoon. Every sensation sharpened her scent, her skin's warmth under his hands, the rhythm of her heartbeat against his chest. Then a surge, not like being filled, but like expanding beyond the limits of his body. For a heartbeat, Elijah saw through her eyes, felt through her skin, and knew what it was to be Lumin. And she in turn saw what it was to be human, the strange blend of fragility and ferocity that made his species impossible to predict. When the light finally dimmed, they were both on their knees, hands still clasped over the heart, breathless and trembling. Celia's lips curved in a slow, satisfied smile. It is done. Before he could speak, the air shimmered. A vast holographic presence formed above them, a figure that shifted between masculine and feminine outlines composed of pure energy. Its voice was like thought and sound fused into one. The joining is complete. After eons of waiting, a suitable pair has achieved true synthesis. Elijah's instincts snapped back online. And you are. We are the eternal architects. We created the heart-seeding psychic potential across the galaxy. You human and you Lumin are the first to merge our design to perfection. Celia's eyes widened. You engineered this. The being's voice resonated in their minds. We provided the potential. You chose the bond. And from it a new life now grows within you. Her breath caught, and she touched her abdomen, as though feeling something stir for the first time. New powers and new threats. For a long moment, the chamber was silent, except for the low, steady hum of the ship's living walls. Celia's palm remained pressed against her abdomen, her luminous pink eyes wide, not with fear, but with a strange dawning certainty. Elijah's own breath felt heavier in his chest. You're saying. The eternal architect's voice resonated inside their skulls, bypassing sound entirely. Yes. The ritual has already initiated the conception. The genetic fusion is stable. The child will inherit the best of both your lineages. Celia's crest flickered in soft pulses. I can feel him, she whispered, though her voice trembled with awe. Already growing, already aware. Elijah stepped closer, his usual still composure faltering for just a moment as he placed a tentative hand over hers. There was no physical sign yet, but the warmth that met his palm wasn't just skin. It pulsed faintly in sync with the heart of consciousness. The eternal architect's form began to dissolve into a cascade of shifting light. Guard the heart and guard your child. Many will sense the change, and not all will welcome it. We will watch your progress. Then it was gone. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. The ship's tone changed, a higher, urgent vibration, rippling through the floor beneath them. Alert, multiple hostile signatures detected. Estimated arrival, less than 10 minutes. Celia's eyes narrowed, all softness, replaced by a sharp predatory gleam. The Dranid. They've been tracking me for the heart, but now they'll want to destroy the source of its new power. Elijah's jaw tightened. Meaning our child. The ship's living panels shifted to combat configuration. The walls tightening bioluminescent veins, glowing brighter interfaces, unfolding from their organic sockets, like petals unfurling before a storm. The tactical display bloomed across one wall, showing a Dranid fleet in tight formation, 47 warships, each bristling with enough firepower to vaporize cities. Elijah scanned the readings, his military mind already running possibilities. We can't fight that many head-on. Your ship's fast, but it's not built to trade blows. That was true before Celia said stepping to the control nexus. But now, things have changed. She extended a hand toward him. Link with me again. He clasped it without hesitation. The neural interface flared to life, and the moment their minds touched, Elijah felt the difference. Before their connection had been a two-part harmony human, and Lumin balanced and distinct. Now, there was a third presence, a quiet but unmistakable pulse in the background, like a steady drumbeat. The child. The heart's energy wound through them both, but the hybrid spark at its center radiated outward, bridging their minds with an even deeper unity. It wasn't just thought-sharing, now it was anticipation. She could sense his tactical instinct before he fully formed it. He could feel the subtle ripples of her psychic reach, as if they were his own. Dranid formation is shifting. Celia reported, her voice half in his ears, half in his mind. They're aligning on the heart's energy signature. They think it's just an object, Elijah said, feeling the hybrid pulse quicken. They don't realize. We are the heart now. Through the link, Celia's satisfaction was almost tangible. Then, let's educate them. The first volley came in a blazing wall of plasma and quantum lances. Any other ship would have been shredded in seconds. Elijah and Celia moved as one. He guided their trajectory through the kill zone, with split-second evasions, the ship responding like an extension of his own body. She layered psychic interference across the enemy's targeting system, causing their shots to lag half a heartbeat behind where they should strike. The child impossibly amplified them both, smoothing their timing into something closer to precognition. 3 ships attempting flanking maneuver, Elijah called. On it, she replied, sending a focused psychic burst rippling through the nearest vessel. Its pilot seized up systems drifting offline, long enough for Elijah to slip a concentrated energy lance straight into its engines. The ship went dark, tumbling away. Wave after wave of Dranid firepower hammered toward them, but they weaved through it like dancers in a deadly waltz. Every time Elijah's mind sketched a move, Celia anticipated it, sharpening the ship's response before the thought was fully formed. Every time her psychic influence reached for the enemy, he instinctively shifted position to give her the best angle. When a near miss rattled the hull, Celia's hand gripped his tighter. The baby, she began, but her voice wasn't panicked. He could feel it too, a pulse of energy from her abdomen, rippling through their shared link. The hybrid was helping, bolstering shields, reinforcing systems through some instinctive connection to the heart. Elijah allowed himself a brief grin. That's my kid. Her answering smile was fierce. Ours. The tactical display flared, Dranid ships converging for a kill strike. They're about to concentrate all fire, Elijah warned. Then we end this now, she said, crest blazing. Through their link, he felt her forming an idea, a dangerous one. She wanted to channel not just their psychic energy, but the child's as well into a single devastating wave. It could burn us out, he cautioned. It could save us, she countered. And he could feel her certainty. He met her gaze. On 3. 1, she said, her voice already merging with his in the link. 2, he echoed, the heart's light flaring in their joined hands. 3, the pulse exploded outward, a tsunami of raw consciousness sweeping through the Dranid fleet. For a fraction of a second, every hostile mind froze, trapped not in fear, but in a wash of euphoric clarity, their aggression dissolved into stunned awe. 47 warships drifted weapons dark. Celia's breathing was ragged in his mind and ears. They'll recover quickly. Then we leave them something to think about, Elijah replied, already plotting their escape route. But even as they turned away, he knew this wasn't the end. The Dranid had just learned the truth. Humanity and the Lumin together were more than a match for them. And somewhere deep inside him, he suspected their next enemy wouldn't just come for the heart. They would come for the child. The Collective and the Preservers. The Dranid fleet drifted like a scattered field of shadows behind them, their ships still sluggish from the psychic wave. The living walls of Celia's vessel began to relax, the bioluminescent veins dimming from battle bright to a calmer glow. But the tension between Elijah's shoulders didn't ease. He knew victory like this never lasted. Celia stood at the control nexus, her breathing steady but her crest flickering faintly, betraying her fatigue. They won't stay stunned for long. Once their minds clear, they'll regroup or send word. Elijah glanced at the tactical display, watching the void around them for any sign of pursuit. Then we need distance, fast. Before she could reply, the ship's organic hull gave a subtle shiver. The pulse wasn't alarm, it was something else. A recognition. Alert incoming vessels, no hostile energy signatures detected. The view beyond the forward membrane shifted, revealing a formation of ships unlike anything Elijah had ever seen. They moved as though they were choreographed crystalline hulls, shaped like intricate sculptures, refracting starlight into cascading rainbows. Each ship seemed both solid and ephemeral, as if they could dissolve into light at will. Celia's crest flared in recognition. Her voice held an edge of disbelief. The Collective of Ascended Species. Elijah raised an eyebrow. Sounds friendly. They are ancient. Older than the Dranid, older than the Lumin. They appear only when the course of evolution changes. The ship's comm interface didn't display a visual feed. Instead, the contact came as a chorus of voices, each harmonizing with the other, until they formed a single resonant tone that settled in the bones. The ripples of your union have reached across the cosmic web. We come to witness and to protect. Elijah crossed his arms. Protect us from what? The voices overlapped seamlessly, neither masculine nor feminine, but deeply knowing. From those who fear change. Your child represents more than genetic fusion. It is a catalyst for galactic evolution. The Dranid are not the only ones who would see it extinguished. Celia's hand found his instinctively, her fingers warm and steady. Then you know who's coming. The Preservers, the Collective confirmed. A coalition of species who believe each lineage must remain pure, untouched by integration. They will move to prevent this birth, by any means. Elijah's voice dropped low and flat. Let them try. The crystalline ships shifted into a protective ring around Celia's vessel. The glow from their hulls resonated with the heart of consciousness, creating a harmonic field that wrapped around the biomechanical ship like an embrace. We will hold them at bay, the Collective said, while you continue your evolutionary progress. Elijah frowned. Progress. For the first time since the transmission began, the tone of the voices shifted, carrying a thread of almost amused warmth. Your bond is unique. Each intimate union strengthens not only your connection, but the hybrid child's development. Desire fuels evolution. Pleasure shapes potential. The meaning landed in Elijah's mind with both clarity and a hint of disbelief. You're telling me our personal activities are good for the baby. Precisely, the Collective said without hesitation. Your mutual attraction serves a higher purpose. The child adapts in real time, incorporating each new layer of compatibility between you. Celia's pink eyes glimmered with mischief as she turned to him. Well, Commander, looks like we have a duty to fulfill. He gave a short, incredulous laugh. You're unbelievable. We're unbelievable, she corrected, her voice dipping lower. And apparently indispensable. Before he could reply, the ship's sensors chimed distant but growing energy spikes on the edge of the system. The Preservers. The Collective's tone sharpened. They are en route. Their fleet is vast, but they will not reach you for several hours. We suggest you use that time efficiently. Celia's hand was already on his arm, her touch lingering. 6 hours, she murmured, her voice like warm velvet. Plenty of time to make some evolutionary magic. Elijah shook his head, half amused, half serious. You're actually turning this into a mission brief, she smiled. Everything's a mission if it changes the galaxy. As the crystalline fleet repositioned for defense, Celia pulled him gently toward the inner chambers, the heart's glow brightening with every step they took. Also. Behind them, the collective's final words echoed in both their minds. Your dedication to this union will be recorded in the annals of Ascension. Evolve well, Commander Steele. Evolve well. The final phase, the inner chambers of Celia's vessel shifted as they walked the living walls, contracting and flowing, reconfiguring into a softer, warmer environment. It wasn't decoration, the ship knew what was happening. It was preparing them for something vital. Elijah glanced at the heart of consciousness, now hovering at the center of the chamber, suspended in a web of glowing biofilaments. Its light was different now, not just pulsing but resonating with a steady rhythmic beat that matched Celia's heartbeat, and the faint quicker one beneath it. She stepped close, her voice low but certain. This will be the last time before the birth, the final genetic fusion. Once it's complete, our bond and the child's will be permanent. Elijah gave her a faint smirk, though the seriousness in his eyes didn't fade. Permanent, huh? Sounds like a long-term contract. Her lips curved in a slow smile. Forever. I hope you can handle that, Commander. Before he could answer, the ship jolted. The floor trembled beneath them, not from gentle organic motion, but from the unmistakable tremor of distant weapons fire. The lights in the chamber shifted from gold to warning red. Alert preserver fleet entering weapons range. The ship's tactical feed unfolded in Elijah's mind through the neural link dozens, maybe hundreds of ships. Sleek, angular, painted in the cold colors of ideology. Every formation screamed disciplined rigidity. A refusal to change. Celia's crest flared, but her body language didn't shift toward combat. Instead, she stepped closer to him, placing his hands on her hips. The collective will hold them. Our part doesn't change. Elijah's brow furrowed. They're bringing everything they've got, and you want me to... I want you to save our child, she cut in, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. The final fusion is more important than any battle outside. The collective knows it. The ship knows it. Deep down, so do you. He searched her face, found no hesitation there, only absolute certainty. Then, without another word, he nodded. All right, let's finish this. They moved to the Heart Hands meeting over its surface. The chamber sealed itself around them, bioluminescent veins weaving into a cocoon. Outside, the muffled vibrations of war rolled through the ship, distant but insistent. The heart's glow enveloped them, spilling across their skin in waves. Their neural link flared to full strength, instantly pulling them into each other's minds. But this time, something was different. There was no sense of his and hers. Thoughts blended before they fully formed. Memories overlapped his childhood on a Martian colony, her first command as a young Lumin officer, the sensation of starlight on alien oceans, all of it weaving into a single seamless identity. The child's presence was stronger now, no longer a faint pulse in the background, but an active current in the link. They could feel its awareness brushing against their own, as if urging them on. Outside, the battle intensified. Through the edges of their connection, Elijah caught flashes from the ship's sensors, crystalline collective vessels, holding formation against the preserver's relentless push energy shields, flaring bright under sustained assault. Inside, the heart began to thrum faster, its light intensifying, until the chamber felt like the core of a star. Every shared breath, every synchronized heartbeat fed into it, amplifying the fusion. The ship rocked violently, throwing them forward into each other's arms. Celia's lips found his, the kiss charged with urgency, need, and the unshakable knowledge that what they were doing was bigger than both of them. The heart flared once, twice, and then detonated in a pulse of pure psychic energy that didn't destroy but transformed. Elijah felt his body and mind expand until there were no boundaries between him, Celia the child, and the heart itself. They were one. When the light dimmed, they collapsed together in the heart's cradle, breathing hard. The link between them no longer felt like a connection that could be severed. It was woven into them now, permanent, unbreakable. Celia touched her abdomen, her voice trembling with both awe and certainty. "It's done. He's ready." Before Elijah could respond, the heart's light shifted again, brightening in sharp pulses. Alert child entering final phase of development. Birth imminent. And outside the Preserver's fleet broke through the collective's defensive perimeter. Birth of the bridge between stars. The ship's hull shuddered under the force of distant detonations, the vibration echoing up through the organic floor. Through the neural link, Elijah caught rapid flashes of the battle outside crystalline collective vessels, locked in deadly formation, their radiant shields flaring under the relentless onslaught of the Preserver fleet. The heart of consciousness blazed in the center of the chamber, its pulses syncing perfectly with the racing beat of Celia's heart. Her crest flared bright, her breathing sharp. She gripped Elijah's forearm, her nails biting into the armor plating of his suit. "Elijah!" Her voice was low, urgent, threaded with something he'd never heard from her before. Not fear, but the deep gravity of inevitability. It's happening, now. He didn't need to ask what. The moment the thought formed, he felt it, the powerful rolling contractions that were not just physical, but rippled through their shared psychic link like tidal waves. Their child wasn't just ready to be born, he was already reaching out. Alert child's consciousness expanding, field resonance increasing, probability of cascade 99.87%. Elijah moved quickly, guiding Celia into the ship's birthing configuration. The chamber responded instantly, walls curving inward protectively, lighting, shifting to a warm gold-white glow, surfaces softening beneath her. Biofilaments extended from the heart, weaving a cradle around her form. She was radiant even in pain. Her green skin shimmered with a thin sheen of perspiration, every line of her body taut with effort. The neural link was alive with her focus, her determination, and beneath it all, her fierce pride. "You're still thinking about how attractive I am," she breathed, catching his stray thought even now. Typical human male, he admitted with a half-smile, kissing her forehead. Typical human male who's about to be a father. Outside, the battle reached a crescendo. Through the link, they felt the strain of the collective's shield web, faltering under concentrated Preserver fire. Inside, the heart flared brighter, the pulses almost blinding. Celia gasped, her eyes locking on his. "He's responding to the battle. He feels it." Elijah gripped her hand tighter. "Then let's show him what victory feels like." The next contraction hit like a nova, and the heart answered. A wave of psychic energy blasted outward from the chamber, through the ship, and into the void beyond. Not a weapon, but a message. It touched every mind in range, Preserver and collective alike, carrying a pure, undeniable truth. Change was here, and it could not be stopped. Ships froze in space, gunners lowered weapons, commanders faltered mid-order, and for a moment the battle simply stopped. Then, with a final cry, Celia brought their child into the galaxy. He was perfect. His skin was a pale green gold that shifted toward a warm human tone in the light, the faint beginnings of a crystalline crest crowning his small head. His eyes opened immediately, not with the cloudy uncertainty of a newborn, but sharp shifting between deep human brown and luminous Lumin pink. When he looked at them, Elijah felt it, a wave of pure love, unfiltered and absolute. No words, no thoughts, just the deep certainty of belonging. The heart's light settled into a steady glow, resonating in harmony with the child's gentle breaths. Outside, the Preserver's fleet was different. Through the link, Elijah could feel them changing, psychic rigidity dissolving, replaced with a fragile dawning acceptance. The collective's voice returned softer now. The evolutionary cascade is complete. Compatible species have awakened to new potential. Even the Preservers now understand. Celia cradled their son against her chest, her expression equal parts warrior and mother. "He's not just ours, Elijah. He's the bridge between us and everything out there." Elijah wrapped an arm around them both, his eyes never leaving the small glowing crest on his son's head. "Then we protect him, always." The collective's ships shifted into a ceremonial formation, their crystalline hulls catching starlight in dazzling arcs. "This birth marks the beginning of a new age," they intoned. "Guard it well, for the galaxy will look to him and to you." Celia's lips curved into a mischievous smile, even through exhaustion. "The architect said our bond will only grow stronger, and that the galaxy will need more of our genetic contributions." Elijah gave a low laugh, leaning in to kiss her hair. "For the good of the galaxy, right?" "For the good of the galaxy," she agreed. And as their ship turned toward the open stars, the three of them, human Lumin, and something entirely new, began the first journey of a future no one in the galaxy could have predicted.